won't dare to touch. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a story that is as dark as it is devastating. What if the biggest drama on Roloff Farms isn't about land, but about the very mind of its patriarch, Matt Roloff? We have been following a series of but deeply troubling insider reports that suggest a shadow campaign of psychological warfare is being waged within the walls of the big house. The goal? To systematically dismantle a man's confidence, his memory, and his very grip on reality. This is the story of the gaslighting decline, a terrifying and exclusive theory about Caryn's cruel plot to convince Matt Roloff he's losing his mind, and in doing so, seize control of everything he holds dear. It's a narrative of manipulation so subtle you'd miss it if you weren't looking. But we are. Before we dive into the shocking details of this alleged campaign, a story that will change the way you watch Little People, Big World forever, please do us a huge favor. If you believe in getting to the truth behind the carefully edited scenes, hit that like button right now. Make sure you are subscribed to LPW Update and ring that notification bell, because you are not going to want to miss a single update on this developing situation. The information we are about to share is explosive, and your support helps us continue to bring these exclusive reports to light. Now, let's get into it. For seasons now, viewers have been fed a specific narrative about Matt Roloff. He's the tireless creator, the dreamer, but also increasingly a man burdened by the weight of his empire. The feud with his sons over the sale of the north side of the farm has been presented as the primary source of his stress. We've seen him look tired, we've seen him seem distracted, and we've heard him lament the complexities of his life. And right there by his side, through all of it, has been Caryn Chandler. She is portrayed as his rock, his confidant, the steady hand guiding him through the emotional storm of his family falling apart. The show presents her as the voice of reason, the calming presence, the one person Matt can truly count on. But what if that entire portrayal is a carefully constructed lie? What if her role isn't one of support, but of sabotage? Sources close to the farm have begun to whisper about a pattern of behavior, a slow and insidious campaign that started so small it was almost unnoticeable. It began, as these things often do, with the mundane, Matt's keys. A man who has managed a complex, multi-acre business for decades suddenly couldn't keep track of his keys. One day, they wouldn't be on the hook by the door. Matt would be certain he put them there. It's where they've gone for 30 years. He would search, growing more and more frustrated, his mind racing through the last time he saw them. And just as his frustration peaked, Caryn would swoop in with a gentle, almost pitying smile. "Oh, honey," she'd say, her voice dripping with faux concern. "Let me help you look." She would walk over to a completely illogical spot, perhaps a bookshelf behind a row of books, or inside a decorative vase on the mantel. "Here they are," she'd exclaim, holding them up. "You're getting so forgetful. You just can't remember where you put things anymore." The first time it happened, Matt likely brushed it off. A senior moment, he's stressed, he's tired, it happens. But then it happened again and again. His wallet would vanish from the nightstand, only to be found by Caryn in the pocket of a coat he hadn't worn in weeks. His reading glasses would disappear from his desk, and Caryn would discover them in the refrigerator. Each time the discovery was accompanied by a comment, a little verbal jab disguised as loving concern. "Silly boy, what are we going to do with you?" Or, "See, your mind is just so full, you're pushing the little things out." Each incident was a single tiny drop of poison, slowly eroding his confidence in his own mind. He was being conditioned to believe a new truth, that his memory was failing, that he was becoming unreliable. The campaign then escalated, moving from simple objects to the very fabric of his schedule and his reality. According to our insider reports, this is where the manipulation became truly devastating. Matt, a meticulous planner and businessman, lives by his calendar, appointments with contractors, meetings with his financial advisors, even his doctor's visits. Everything is written down. One week, he had a crucial meeting scheduled with a potential partner for a new farm attraction, a deal he was incredibly excited about. He had it in his calendar for Tuesday at 10 a.m. He spoke about it with Caryn the night before, but when Tuesday at 10 a.m. rolled around, Caryn casually asked him what his plans were for the day. The meeting, of course, he'd say, and she would look at him with a confused expression. Honey, what meeting? That meeting is on Wednesday. Look at your calendar. Matt, flustered, would check, and there it was, in what he thought was his own handwriting. Wednesday, 10 a.m. He'd missed the meeting. He'd lost the opportunity. The professional embarrassment was immense, but the personal damage was worse. He couldn't trust his own hand. He couldn't trust his own planning. Caryn, of course, was there to comfort him. Don't be so hard on yourself, she would coo, wrapping an arm around him. It's okay. It happens. Your mind is just playing tricks on you lately. We'll just have to be more careful. That's all. Maybe I should start managing your schedule for you, just to be safe. Do you see the genius of this alleged plot? It's not a direct attack. It's a campaign of 1,000 tiny cuts. It's the denial of shared experiences. Matt would bring up a conversation they'd had just the day before, a decision they had made together about a farm repair. And Caryn would stare at him, her face a perfect mask of innocence and confusion. Sweetheart, we never talked about that. I think you must have dreamed it. Are you feeling all right? He would insist, explaining the details of the conversation, where they were standing, what they were wearing. But her denial was absolute, unshakable. Her calm dismissal of his reality was more powerful than any argument he could make. It forced a terrible question into his mind. Is she lying, or am I actually losing it? Am I inventing entire conversations? The doubt was cancer, and she was feeding it daily. While this psychological assault was being waged on Matt, a second front was open: the children. To them, and to everyone else in their orbit, Caryn framed her actions not as manipulation, but as profound, saintly concern. We're told she would have hushed, sad phone calls with Zach or Jeremy. Her tone would be heavy with sorrow. I don't know what to do, she would sigh into the phone. I'm so worried about your dad. His memory is really starting to go. She wouldn't just make vague claims. She would provide concrete, fabricated evidence. He got completely lost on the way to the grocery store yesterday. She'd lie, her voice cracking with emotion. The one he's been going to for 40 years. He called me so confused he didn't know where he was. I had to go get him. Please don't say anything to him. He's so proud it would just break his heart if he knew I told you. She was building a narrative, brick by painful brick. She was poisoning the well. By getting to the children first, she was pre-framing all of Matt's future actions through the lens of cognitive decline. If Matt got angry about the farm sale negotiations, it wasn't a legitimate business disagreement. It was confusion, an old man lashing out because he couldn't follow the details anymore. If he made a decision they didn't like, Caryn could swoop in and say, "See, I told you, he's not thinking clearly." She was isolating him from his own family, turning his potential allies into worried observers who would second-guess everything he said and did. She was painting herself as the tragic, long-suffering caregiver, the only one strong enough to manage this difficult situation, the only one who truly had Matt's best interests at heart. It was a masterpiece of deception, designed to make her indispensable and him incompetent. But here's the thing about Matt Roloff. Beneath the television persona, beneath the stress and the family drama, is a sharp, calculating businessman. This is a man who turned a patch of land into a nationally recognized tourist destination. He's written books, designed products, and navigated complex business deals his entire life. And while one part of his mind was succumbing to the doubt and confusion Caryn was so carefully planting, another part, the core of who he is, started to notice a pattern, a nagging, persistent feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. The mistakes, the lapses in memory, the bouts of confusion, they all had one common denominator. They only ever seemed to happen when Caryn was the only other witness. When he was with his farmhand, foreman, or his friends, his mind was as sharp as ever. He could recall details of a construction project from 5 years ago. He could negotiate the price of lumber down to the penny. But the moment he was alone with Caryn, the fog would descend, his keys would disappear, his appointments would shift, his conversations would vanish into thin air. His business instincts began to scream that this was not a problem with the hardware of his brain, but with the software of his environment. He started to analyze the situation like a business problem. He began to subtly test his own memory, leaving himself notes, taking pictures of where he left things. And slowly, a horrifying suspicion began to dawn. He wasn't just losing his mind. He was being led to believe he was. The idea was monstrous, a betrayal so profound it was almost unthinkable. This was the woman he loved, the woman he trusted with his life, his future. Could she really be capable of such a cruel and calculated deception? He had to know the truth. He felt like he was going crazy, but the only way to prove his sanity to himself more than anyone was to find irrefutable proof. This, according to our sources, is what led to the most critical turning point in this entire secret war. Matt decided to take a page out of a spy thriller. He needed a witness who couldn't be manipulated, a witness who couldn't be lied to, a witness who had a perfect memory. He needed a camera. He went online and ordered a small, high-definition nanny cam. It was tiny, easily concealable, and recorded crystal clear video and audio. He brought it home, and with a heart heavy with a sickening mixture of dread and determination, he set it up in the main living room, concealing it on a high shelf among other knickknacks, its lens perfectly positioned to see the front door, the key hook, the coffee table, and the main seating area. He needed a cover story, of course. He couldn't let Caryn know its true purpose. He presented it to her as a simple security upgrade. You know, with all the attention on the farm, I just think it would be a good idea to have a camera in here, he said, affecting a casual tone, just for security, in case anyone ever gets onto the property. Caryn's reaction was exactly what he both hoped for and feared. She didn't question it. She didn't seem suspicious. Instead, she was enthusiastically supportive. "Oh, honey, that's such a brilliant idea," she reportedly said, smiling warmly. "You can never be too safe. It'll give us both peace of mind." Her easy acceptance was a chilling confirmation of her belief that she had nothing to hide, that her control over his reality was so complete that a simple camera posed no threat. She had no idea that the camera wasn't there to watch for intruders from the outside. It was there to watch for the enemy within. The camera was now active, a silent, unblinking eye in the heart of their home. Matt went about his days, pretending everything was normal. But inside, he was a wreck. Every time he misplaced something, every time Caryn corrected his memory of an event, a silent war raged within him. Was this it? Was this another manufactured incident? Or was he truly just being forgetful this time? He had to wait. He needed to let the camera collect enough data to capture a full week of their life together. That week, our sources say, was one of the most confusing and mentally taxing of Matt Roloff's life. There were several small incidents, a misplaced TV remote, a forgotten promise to call someone back, each one chipping away at his resolve. Caryn's performance was flawless. Her concern seemed so genuine, her patience so endless. Matt started to doubt himself again. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he was just a paranoid old man, inventing a conspiracy to avoid facing the difficult truth of his own mental decline. Then came the incident that would change everything. The smoking gun. It was a Thursday morning. Matt was supposed to drive into Portland for a specialist appointment, a routine checkup for his dwarfism related health issues. He was ready to go, but his truck keys, which he knew with absolute certainty he had placed on the hook the night before, were gone. The frantic search began, a ritual that had become sickeningly familiar. He checked his pockets, the kitchen counters, and the bedroom. Caryn joined the search, her face a mask of supportive concern. "They have to be here somewhere, honey. Just relax and think," she said soothingly. They searched for nearly half an hour. Matt was on the verge of canceling his appointment. He felt the familiar wave of frustration and self-doubt wash over him. Then Caryn had a sudden epiphany. "Wait a minute," she said, her eyes lighting up. "You were looking at that old vase your mother gave you last night, weren't you? Talking about how dusty it was. I bet you put them in there without even thinking about it." She walked over to the decorative vase on the mantelpiece, the exact same vase she had used before. She reached inside, and like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat, she produced the missing keys. She held them up, a triumphant yet pitying smile on her face. "See," she said, her voice soft and patronizing, "you just can't remember where you put things anymore. It's a good thing you have me to help you find them." That evening, after Caryn had gone to bed, Matt Roloff sat down at his computer. His hands were trembling. He felt a cold knot of dread in his stomach. This was the moment of truth. He took a deep breath, plugged the memory card from the hidden camera into his computer, and clicked on the first video file from the night before. He fast-forwarded through the footage of them watching TV, of him getting up and hanging his keys on the hook by the door. He watched himself turn off the lights and head to bed. The living room was dark and silent for hours. Then, at 2:17 a.m., a figure emerged from the hallway. It was Caryn. She moved silently through the dark room, a ghost in her own home. She wasn't sleepwalking. Her movements were calm, deliberate, and purposeful. He watched in absolute horror as the camera captured her walking directly to the key hook. She paused, looked back toward the bedroom to ensure he was asleep, and then calmly took his truck keys off the hook. She didn't hesitate. She walked directly to the mantelpiece, reached into the decorative vase, and dropped the keys inside. Then she turned and walked back to the bedroom as if nothing had happened. Matt felt the air leave his lungs. He rewound the footage and watched it again. And again, there was no ambiguity. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a cold, calculated act of sabotage. He then skipped ahead to the footage from that morning. He watched the scene play out from the camera's objective perspective. He saw his own frantic searching, his visible frustration. He saw Caryn watching him, her face a carefully composed portrait of sympathy. He saw her feign her sudden realization, her walk to the vase, and her triumphant discovery. He saw her patronizing smile and heard her condescending words, "You just can't remember where you put things anymore." The camera provided irrefutable, soul-crushing proof. It wasn't his mind that was broken. It was the trust he had placed in this woman. The entire foundation of his life with her was a lie. Her concern was a weapon. Her help was a trap. Every "oh honey," every gentle touch, every sad sigh to his children was part of a monstrous, calculated campaign to make him doubt his own sanity. It was never about helping him. It was about convincing him he was broken so she could take everything. The goal wasn't just control of the farm, it was control of his very being. The violation was absolute. The betrayal was a wound deeper than any physical ailment. Matt Roloff now knew the truth. He wasn't losing his mind. He was in a fight for it. The gaslighting decline was real, but it wasn't his. It was hers. And the reckoning was about to begin. The silence of the house was a roar in Matt Roloff's ears. The glow of the computer screen cast a pale, sickly light on his face, illuminating a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. He was no longer watching a video. He was staring into the abyss of a betrayal so deep it threatened to swallow him whole. Every seemingly innocent moment with Caryn over the past few years began to flicker through his mind, not as memories, but as exhibits in a long, secret trial where he had been the unknowing defendant. Each time she'd found his lost glasses, each canceled appointment she'd blamed on his failing memory, each conversation she'd denied having, it was all evidence. He wasn't just being manipulated. His entire reality had been a meticulously crafted prison, and she was the warden, the architect, and the sole key holder. The feeling that washed over him wasn't just anger. It was a cold, terrifying clarity. The fog of confusion and self-doubt that had clouded his mind for so long was suddenly gone, burned away by the harsh digital truth on the screen. He saw the woman he loved, the woman he planned to spend the rest of his life with, as a stranger, a predator who had been patiently, methodically breaking him down piece by piece to get what she wanted. The next morning was the hardest performance of his life. When Caryn came into the kitchen, humming a cheerful tune, her face bright with a loving smile, Matt had to force himself not to physically recoil. He had to meet her kiss, to accept the coffee she poured for him, to act like the same slightly confused, forgetful man he had been the day before. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she chirped, patting his shoulder. "Did you sleep well?" Inside, Matt was screaming. He wanted to throw the laptop on the table and force her to watch herself, to see the cold, calculating thief she became in the dead of night. But he couldn't. He was a businessman, a strategist. A premature confrontation would only lead to denial, to her twisting the story, to her claiming he was the one being paranoid, that he was delusional in seeing things. The camera footage was proof, yes, but she would find a way to explain it away. She might even claim she was sleepwalking or that she was just tidying up and forgot she'd moved the keys. No, a single piece of evidence wasn't enough. He needed more. He needed to build a case so airtight, so overwhelmingly damning that not even she, with her masterful manipulation, could escape it. So he smiled back, a hollow, brittle thing. "Slept like a log," he lied. "Though for the life of me, I can't remember what I was dreaming about." He watched her face for any flicker of triumph, and he saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible gleam in her eyes. It was the look of a puppeteer pleased that the strings were still working perfectly. From that day forward, Matt's life became a secret double existence. On the surface, he was the same old Matt, increasingly dependent on Caryn's help. He would feign confusion, asking her to repeat things, forgetting small tasks she'd asked him to do. He played the part of the man she was trying to create, and with a chilling ease, she slipped even deeper into her role as the saintly caregiver. In reality, Matt was a detective in his own home. He was a prisoner gathering evidence for his own appeal. He didn't just rely on the one nanny cam anymore. Our sources indicate he discreetly installed 2 more cameras, one in the kitchen, hidden inside a faux plant, covering the main calendar on the wall and the drawer where they kept important documents. Another was placed in their home office with a clear view of his desk, his computer, and the filing cabinets. His home was no longer a sanctuary. It was a surveillance state of his own making, a necessary defense against the enemy sleeping in his bed. The new cameras began to pay dividends almost immediately. He captured footage of her going to the large wall calendar in the kitchen late at night. He had a meeting with the pumpkin patch vendor scheduled for a Friday. He had written it down himself and taken a picture of it with his phone for his own private records. The camera recorded Caryn after checking to see if he was asleep, calmly taking an eraser to the calendar and moving the meeting to the following Tuesday. The next day, when Matt mentioned getting ready for the Friday meeting, she directed him to the calendar with that familiar, pitying tone. "Oh, honey, no," she said, pointing. "See, it's next Tuesday. You really need to start paying closer attention when you write things down." Without his own photographic proof, he would have believed her. He would have spiraled into that familiar pit of self-doubt. But now, watching the footage back, he felt a surge of cold fury. He was witnessing the mechanics of her deception in high definition. Another time, he captured something even more insidious. It was a phone call. She was in the office, thinking she was alone. The camera's microphone picked up her side of the conversation. Reportedly with her daughter, her voice was low, conspiratorial. "I know, it's just getting worse and worse," Caryn sighed into the phone. "He's just not all there anymore. No, he has no idea. He thinks he's fine, which is the saddest part. Well, the plan is to talk to the lawyer next month about, making things official, getting the power of attorney. It's not what I want, but I have to be able to protect him and his assets. He'd sign anything for anyone right now. He's that confused. It's for his own good." For his own good, the words echoed in Matt's head. She was packaging her coup as an act of mercy. She wasn't just trying to control the farm. She was positioning herself to gain legal control over his entire life, his finances, his medical decisions, everything. She was planning to erase him as a person and replace him with a legal ward she could control like a trust fund. This was the end game. The vague sense of unease he had felt for years had now crystallized into a clear and present danger. She was moving to checkmate. With this new, horrifying clarity, Matt began to reevaluate everything, especially the catastrophic breakdown of his relationships with Zach and Jeremy. The farm feud had torn his family apart, and he had shouldered much of the blame, believing his sons were being unreasonable, that they didn't appreciate the opportunity he was offering. But now, he started to sift through those bitter memories, searching for Caryn's fingerprints. He remembered conversations where Caryn would report back to him what Zach had said after a tense meeting. "He's just being entitled, Matt," she would tell him, her arm around his shoulder. "I heard him talking to Tori. He said he deserves the farm and that you owe it to him." But had Zach really said that? Or was that Caryn's translation, twisted just enough to stoke Matt's anger and sense of injustice? He recalled a time when Jeremy had made a financial offer for a